For 50 years, computing has been a two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional world, and it made me mad. But now, thanks to you, it's over. Enter the next dimension with spatial computing. Woo-hoo! AWE, for the last 10 years, has had a mission to provide you with a platform to help accelerate its arrival. And you stuck with us on this bumpy road. So from the bottom of my heart, I'm kind of getting emotional a little bit. Thank you very much for joining us for the 10th AWE. You guys are awesome. Now I have one question for you. Are you ready to enter the next dimension? Are you ready to enter the next dimension? Yes. So how did we get here? In December 1968, Engelbert introduced the mother of all demos, which laid the ground for modern personal computing. It was presented on a 2D screen and controlled with a 2D input device. Since then, we had to interact with information through a 2D flat interface. It changed the world, but it wasn't natural. It wasn't designed for how our brains are wired. The amazing thing is that during that same week, another breakthrough demo was presented. Ivan Sutherland demonstrated the principles of spatial computing, a three-dimensional display in which the image of an object changes in exactly the same way a real image of an object would change for similar motions of the head. Computing imitating real life. That sounded very promising. So history had a choice to make: computer in a box or computing that surrounds us, flatware or spatialware. So how come we chose the 2D unnatural path? Well, in the words of Tom Furness, we had the technology, we had the dreams, but the tech wasn't there. So what did flatware do to us? Marshall McLuhan is known for saying the medium is the message. But today, over 90% of all media interactions are screen-based. The screen is the message. Interesting fact, the old definition of the word screen means to separate. It separates us from information, and that's not natural to humans. Think about what modern computing is doing to us. Carpal tunnel, neck pain, nearsightedness, not to mention the impact on our memory and how we interact with others. We try to evolve and ignore our DNA roots, but the latest trends promote lifestyle changes that try to bring us back to our origins. It's impacting how we think about exercise, food, health, and now technology. 50 years after the ultimate display demo, technology has caught up, and it's finally native to our species. It empowers us to communicate through our natural senses, to interact in space like humans did in the million years before the mother of all demos. It makes computing human again. What, too soon? Seriously, though, the main message here is that the new wave is not just about cool new tech, or even about immersive experiences. It's about putting the human at the center and making humanity better. Yes, we're seeing large corporations recognizing measurable ROI. Consumers begin to appreciate the radical benefits of this technology. But it goes beyond that. It signals the next dimension of humanity. Spatial computing opens opportunities for knowledge creation and collaboration on a scale that we have never seen before. You all know this. We learn better in 3D, in space, especially when all the senses are involved. And we also create better in the 3D world. We do it every day, all day long. Spatial interactions free us from the shackles of the 2D interface and accelerate our ability to create and consume information in the space around us. In his book, Sapiens, Harari says that what made the human species the ruler of Earth wasn't our ability to think as individuals, but our ability to think in large groups. And Wikipedia is a great example of the power of millions collaborating and in knowledge creation. Now imagine what spatial computing can do when large groups of people collaborate in knowledge creation in the real or virtual world. We could create the spatial Wikipedia. By building on the AR cloud, we can enable millions of people to collaborate not with text, but by visually capturing the collective human intelligence about everything, place, and person, and make it available not by search, but at a glance, anywhere they go. What Wikipedia pulled off was an unprecedented achievement for humanity. The spatial Wikipedia could eclipse it manyfold. And no, it won't look like this. There will be much less text and way more visuals and triggers for the other senses, because we just process information much faster that way. To create a spatial Wikipedia, we need three things. It must be spatial, not just text bubbles, but truly embedding the content in the 3D world. We must have a wiki so that many people can edit and collaborate. And we must have creators of the spatial kind. So let's start with the wiki. In 1995, the original wiki was revolutionary, and Cunningham defined it as a website that allows visitors to make changes, contributions, or corrections. So how does this evolve into the next dimension? What will replace websites? You guys have a word for that? I'm going to call it on-sites, all right? Let's try that. So the spatial wiki can be defined as an on-site that allows visitors to make changes, contributions, and corrections in space. How does that sound? It's starting to sound a lot like the fortune cookie game, you know, where you add at the end a thing at the end of the sentence. But actually, it won't be as simple as taking websites or apps and dropping them into a space. Experiences need to be completely redesigned, rethought. We need a new kind of language, and we need a new kind of creators. The good news is that following peak hype and some early disappointments this decade, the foundation is here, and it's good enough. There's plenty of hard tech problems that we still need to solve, but for creators, the barriers for entry have been knocked down. There are no more excuses. And that's why we declare this year as the Year of the Creator. And every person can be one. So here's my message to creators. Some warn that AR can be distracting from the real world, and VR can be isolating. But I argue it only happens with the wrong design. With the right design, it can be like meditation. You can become more aware of your surroundings. You can become one with the world, right? I'm just messing with you. No, seriously. Now it's up to you, it's up to all of us, the creators, to define the new spatial language and create experiences that are essential to everyday life and work. By the way, did you notice we haven't talked about AR, VR, or XR up until now, only about spatial computing? Yeah, because spatial is really what separates the new wave from all the previous ones. AR, VR, MR, and a lot of AI are the tech enablers for this new wave. And it's really about the next dimension of creation. So the transition from flatware to spatialware is radical. Searching for information will go from typing to gazing, talking, or gesturing. Navigation changes from hypertext to hyperspace. We move from space to space. Design transitions from responsive web to responsive reality, where content automatically resizes itself to fit real or virtual reality. And interactions switch from 2D input, mouse, keyboard, touch, to spatial interactions that involve all our senses. And finally, communication goes from shared messaging of text, photos, or videos to shared presence, where we all feel like we're in the same space. As I was quoted in Kevin Kelly's fantastic Mirror World article in Wired, it's about moving the internet off of screens and into the real world. Removing the screen as the medium, making the world the medium again. Bye-bye two-dimensional flatware. Hello, spatialware. Finally, computing that is made for how our brains are wired. But with all the excitement, let's not forget this face. I'm going to show it every time to remind you. With spatial computing, the amount of data collected about us by corporations will only increase when everything we do is captured and analyzed on a camera or a mic. But there's a silver lining. There's an opportunity to change the business model. Up until now, tracking our behavior was monetized mostly for advertising, right? But when you use spatial computing, we create knowledge about how the world works. And this is just by doing, just as a byproduct of everyday life. And that aggregated knowledge could propel a new monetization strategy, perhaps a new gold rush. But to make sure the future is indeed private, always remember this face. And now, it's the 10th year, and AWE is entering its next dimension as well. Since inception, it has been a reflection of the industry, and we like to think it also helped shape it in some way. So to understand what the next 10 years have in store for us, here's a brief history of the past 10 years through the AWE lens. AWE was born in 2010 as a tiny gathering of AR enthusiasts. To reenact that moment, I have my special glasses on. I don't know. I can't see anything with this. By the way, this is the most tech you're going to see today in this talk. I was asked many times, what sparked its birth at that particular point in time? At the end of 2009, if you remember, the industry was experiencing a major transition. For decades, AR was exclusively in the research domain at universities and labs around the world. And VR, of course, was dormant since the 90s. AR looked mostly like this. Ridiculous and awesome at the same time. Then comes the iPhone, Android phones, the Kinect, Google goggles. R&D shifts towards investments by tech giants and some brave startups, and webcam-based AR campaigns by big brands pop up everywhere. A new industry is born. Overnight, interest in AR skyrockets. The fascination among Fortune 1000 companies is reflected in these companies that attended the very first AWE in 2010, many of whom are still leading in AR today. And these guys are the top AR startups back then. 10 years later, about a third were acquired and became the foundation in companies like Facebook and Apple. But many are still here with us today, stronger than ever. So give them a round of applause for awesome endurance. And what about the people? Here are some of the amazing people who attended the very first AWE and stuck with us throughout all these years. So go ahead, stand up and take a bow. I salute you guys. By 2013, Google Glass emerges and drives interest in AR to a new record. Of course, before you know what happens. But at AWE, dozens of early smart glasses appear on the market and are displayed on the show floor. The focus shifts from consumer to enterprise, and from GPS-based AR to depth sensing devices-based AR, like Tango and Structure Sensor. And you get a glimpse of what it really means to understand the world in 3D. It becomes front and center at AWE. In 2014 and 15, with the Oculus and Vive launch and Facebook acquisition, VR interest goes through the roof. The VR industry is reborn and joins AWE. A new theme is embraced by the AR and VR community. The idea that AR and VR can make everyone better at anything they do in work and life. It gives superpowers to the people. That same year, AWE debuts in Asia as a signal to the industry that China could become the largest market for AR and VR. In 2016, with the HoloLens launch, Pokemon Go craze, and the addictive Snapchat filters, the AR industry gets a jolt. It transforms AWE. New appetite for smart glasses and demand for games and social AR is on the rise. 2017 ends with an avalanche of new AR developer tools from Apple, Google, Snap, Facebook, Amazon. And that marks the birth also of the AR cloud. The hype transitions into real promise. It sets the industry on a trajectory towards the mainstream. And the AWE Expo Hall becomes a really great attraction. Meanwhile, we turn the industry's attention to using these powers for the good of society. And as a consequence, 2018 becomes a turning point for AR, with massive investments by tech giants and investors, and a record number of startups at AWE. The VR market at that time is somewhat disillusioned, except for maybe location-based VR, which thrives. And some companies shift direction to enterprise or to AR. VR, of course, is still awesome. It just takes more time than expected. That year, AWE picks the theme, Go XR or Go Extinct, because by now, every corporation, startup, and investor must get into AR and VR or be left behind. And indeed, an incredible number of Fortune 1000 companies attend the show to showcase their XR achievements. So from a tiny get-together of visionaries in 2010, AWE grows steadily with the ups and downs of the industry. From a handful of exhibitors in the corner in 2010, this year, you guys are taking over the entire convention center. When we founded augmentedreality.org, the nonprofit behind AWE, we challenged the industry for a moonshot to achieve 1 billion users by the end of the decade. Well, this month, Facebook announced that 1 billion people have experienced AR in the past year. It looks like we made it before the deadline. Woohoo! Balloon drop. Wait, not yet? Oh, I guess they were supposed to be active. So that's definitely going to happen by next year. 1 billion is an important milestone, but it's still less than a quarter of all mobile users. But those who try it, that's the good news, really like it. And it's great for the businesses using it. So now, we must create experiences that reach every single person on Earth. So what else is happening in 2019? A lot. WebXR, OpenXR, OpenAR Cloud all help remove the barriers for adoption. AR advertising is on the rise, and early demos of the AR Cloud show realistic occlusion. Magic Leap delivers on the long-awaited goods. HoloLens 2 defies all the critics. Oculus Quest and other great VR devices hit the market and are getting rave reviews. And even Google Glass is back. 2019 is looking pretty damn awesome, right? And that was a brief history of the last 10 years through the AWE lens. I hope you took something from it as we look forward. We plan to be there for you for the next 10 years as spatial computing becomes part of everyday life. It's no longer just for the brave few. In the next 10 years, it's really for everybody. And it starts today with the 10th AWE. On the show floor, over 200 exhibitors showcasing products from the next dimension. Give it up. And even more. And how about our amazing speakers, the most diverse lineup we've ever put together? We even have avatars this year. Give them a round of applause. And many thanks to our partners who help spread the word about AWE and make it awesome. Thank you, partners. And above all, big thanks to our sponsors who make this event possible. Special shout out to Adobe, Lenovo, and Unreal. Give it up. Thanks very much. Finally, I would like to recognize the volunteers who organize the on-night meetups around the world. Big round. And the AWE team, Brain Exchange, Prospera, Super Ventures, RGI, and the hundreds of volunteers that make this show possible. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now let's make computing human again and enter the next dimension of computing and of humanity. Have a great show, guys. Thank you.